If you love someone struggling with addiction, you know the ache of waiting, wondering, and holding on to hope.
You've seen the glimpses of who they really are and feared losing them to who they're not.
As long as they are alive, there's hope.
Between Relapse and Redemption is a raw and honest conversation between a mother and a daughter who've walked the long road through 20 years of addiction, Oxycontin, heroin, fentanyl, and found their way back to life, love, and healing.
Whether your loved one is lost in the spiral or fighting their way out, we created this space for you too.
To know that you're not alone, to understand more, to believe healing is still possible.
As long as they're alive, there is hope.
What Relapse taught me about real love.
20 years,
Two
two
hearts,
hearts,
one
one
story.
story.
Subscribe for weekly videos that explore the real, messy, and meaningful side of addiction and recovery from both sides.
Subscribing and sharing will help others who need to hear these messages.
We will offer stories, insights, and conversations that offer hope, understanding, and truth.
And reaching more and more people is what we're really after here. So please like this, share it, subscribe. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us today. So, sweetheart, this past week, you and I ran into a bit of a snafu. And
Interesting word.
oh, well, okay, let's put it in more current lingo, I suppose. I don't know. What would you say?
A conundrum.
Okay. We ran into a conundrum. We ran into an obstacle.
Sure
And it
did.
really, on my side, I know I got triggered. And I know trigger is like a word that gets thrown around a lot. But when I say that, what I mean is my nervous system was going rather wild. And it had me questioning, are we building trust here or are we breaking trust?
Mm-hmm.
And I know for me, when I started to feel overwhelmed, worry came in like, oh my goodness, are we stepping backwards? Because so many times we've started to move forward and then there's been a fall off and then it just seems like the cycle started all over again. And my nervous system just really started getting worked up and I felt myself getting frustrated and I felt myself getting anxious, and I decided that I needed to send you a message and let you know that, and not knowing if you'd respond to it. And I did receive a response from you the next morning and an apology, which I really appreciate. But what I really also received was understanding. And that was so important. And I think it's so important for all of us because when we don't understand what's happening, we conjure up our own ideas of what's happening, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we draw into our history that says, oh, last time this is what happened. And so it takes us off on a spiral. And so that overwhelm is what you had communicated, and once you did, I just felt everything inside my body settle down, and I realized not everybody's going to get that understanding. They're not going to have someone respond to them and tell them. But I want to talk about the overwhelm, which you've been experiencing. Is you're what, 5 months clean now?
5 months, yeah.
Congratulations. That everything that you've been taking on, what's overwhelmed you, and then also understand the overwhelm on my part, because I think that, again, for whoever's watching this on both sides, that perhaps in the person in the addiction doesn't realize not only are they overwhelmed, but they're also overwhelming those that love them. And also the person who cares for them, how overwhelmed they can be. So what's your thoughts on that?
So last week was a bit overwhelming. Just to recap for all of you about my week, I'm kind of checking in a way. I started a program that is made for felons and people that have been in and out of the criminal justice system. Help us get back up on our feet. We learn customer service. We learn warehouse training. We learn the ins and outs of multiple things having to do with being employed. They help us create resumes, and then we graduate after 2 weeks. And then, we go through and we we have a couple interviews and we go to a physical. And then as long as we can pass that physical, then we start the next part of our job. Um, and along with that, I also started another program. It's kind of like the amount of learning that I'm doing is the same amount that somebody will learn going through a junior college, but it's condensed. So it's in a 12-week time frame rather than a 2-year type time frame. So I go to a couple meetings via Zoom throughout the week, and then I also do a Saturday class. And alongside with that, I'm attending several meetings a week. We have a house meeting. We have
and by meetings, you mean
NA meetings. NA meetings. I led a meeting at our house for our step work. And I have just tried to be as much of assistance as I can to other women in my home. And I've learned with that, at the end of the day, I am absolutely exhausted.
And you took on a new role in the home.
And I took on a new role in the home. And so I have many more responsibilities in doing that. And my mom kind of called me out on it, about being such a people pleaser. And it's what I've tried to do most of my life, and especially in my addiction. And it was people pleasing, but then on the flip side of that, I was actually completing my first step and realized how selfish I was in my addiction. And I've tried to become more of a selfless individual, and I see where I've progressed in the 5 months that I've been clean, and in the little over going on 2.5 months of being in the sober living I'm in. And I'm just wanting to give back. And in the midst of all that, I'm finding that I'm starting to lose my sense of priorities. Mm-hmm. I mean, going to church, going to Bible study, but most importantly, myself and my family and my children. And I made multiple commitments to come over last week, and I did not follow through with them. I'm not going to sit here and make any excuse. I pretty much, as people would say, I double booked. You
were given from the saucer, not the cup.
I was. And it was almost when I was in my addiction, and even, before my addiction got too serious, addiction's serious all the way around. But when I was first starting, probably even in my teenage years, before the whole drug addiction part started, it was instant gratification. And when I wanted it, I needed it. And I know that's fulfilling a void within myself. And I just showing up and being here with my family, and I'm finally getting to know my nephew, and who I've only, been around a handful of times. He's coming up on being 2 years old. And my son, that lives with my mom. And I just, I feel like it's old behavior that kicks up, or that I act upon in even my current life, because now that, I don't have an excuse on why I can't be here at the end of the day. I know what time I get off work. I know what time my schooling is. I know what time meetings are. So what's to say I can't get in my car, which recently I bought a car, that I can't drive 10 miles and come home and spend 2 hours with my family, and, or pick up the phone. And, it's old behavior, and I've recognized that. And so after my mom, sent me that text, and I didn't even respond that night. And I really just had to think about it, because in the past, I'd give her some bullshit ass excuse my language, or come up with some long, drawn out story or excuse. And so now when I'm trying to describe to her more what's going on in my life, I make sure it's not, I just, maybe it's some sort of, it's just internal or whatnot. But I know the longer my story is, the less likely she's going to believe it. So I just try and get down to the bullet points. And sometimes there's multiple things that have occurred in my day. Being in a sober living, there's a lot of different things going on. Many at the same time. There's many different personalities. There's children, and There's addiction, active addiction, and there's a lot going on. So on top of that, and then going to my work training and going to school, doing some training, and trying to just juggle life on life's terms has completely overwhelmed me. And I've gone to bed at night with headaches, and then I'm woken up in the morning, or I wake up in the morning and my internal alarm clock goes off. Bing, okay, Nicole, it's time to get up. And, sometimes I wake up absolutely exhausted. And a few weeks ago, I wasn't like that. I wasn't waking up completely exhausted. Mm-hmm. And I feel at the end of the day, now that we're talking about it, I need to just take, as in we do in our steps, but I believe it's step 4. We take moral inventory on ourselves, and when we're wrong, we promptly admit them. And I haven't done so yet, and I'm not on my 4th step yet, but I believe that's so crucial in my own life. And
I think it's crucial in every person's life.
Yeah, but for me to be successful in my life and my own recovery, is okay. I wronged my mom by not showing up. I wronged myself. I wronged my family. And my family, over the couple decades, they haven't liked what I have done. They haven't approved of it, but I've had that love and that unconditional love and support. And sometimes it was at a distance, or, family members or siblings or whatnot, just completely distancing themselves. And I get it, because I did it to I did it to myself. And the fact that I just made so many different commitments last week, and I didn't follow through with them. As I was saying in the text that you sent me, I really just needed to process that text instead of just being like, well, look, Mom, this is what's going on. Da, 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 da. And I actually fell asleep thinking about it, and I woke up the next morning, and the picture you had sent that said, that was the room in here, and said, are we building trust or are we breaking trust? And, that's what I went to sleep with that night. But I knew, knowing myself, if I would have just reacted to that, it would have been like, look, Mom, like, just out of frustration for what I'm going through in my own life because of me. It's not because of anybody else. It's because of me. And I've learned that I have just taken on so many tasks, and I'm grateful for them, because it's teaching me how to live life on life's terms, and that everything isn't going to be rainbows and butterflies, and there's going to be obstacles, but I'm learning that it's how I take care of them, and starting to make a list on things that are priority, or things that I've made a commitment to prior to newer commitments. And first and foremost, it's God, it's my family, it's myself. And I have children, and I have a nephew, and they deserve me and me being present, and just like I deserve them. And I brought them into this world just like you brought me into this world. What I'm saying is that being overwhelmed in the past during my active addiction, I know where that I would have just been like, whatever, let me go numb this pain. But now I'm actually feeling it. Mm-hmm. And so
that's the key, isn't it?
I'm feeling it, and I'm feeling everything. Yeah. And it gets rough. And I journal a lot.
It's that avoidance, or it's that approach, or being with that pain. Mm-hmm. And when you avoid it, it just chases you around.
Yeah.
And when you sit with it, yeah, you got to feel it. And it is not pleasant whatsoever. I mean, whether addiction or whether any other type of feeling that
Right.
people have on the planet, the pain that comes with it can feel intolerable. However, once you really sit with it, it can actually start bringing you an awareness and an understanding, and also the next steps that you can follow to resolve that so it doesn't chase you around anymore.
Right.
And I think too, I misspoke it earlier when I said you were giving from the saucer, not the cup. And what I meant was you need to be giving from the saucer, not the cup. You've been giving from the cup, right? And I really see selfishness and selflessness a bit differently. I think the selflessness is really reaching that highest attainment of ourselves, but being in a place where we're recovering or we're uncovering, we're learning about ourselves. It's more for me about the balance between being selfish and being self-full.
Right.
And I like that word self-full because if we don't fill that inner cup first, then we have nothing. We're depleted. And that's the people pleasing part, right? And when we fill up our own cup, God, being with ourselves and loving on ourselves, or sorting through, or doing your step work, or making decisions, or setting boundaries, that fills the cup, and then it can spill over to the saucer to give to other people. And what I understood from you last week was you basically depleted your cup, but you were given to everybody out of the cup. And then when it came to some of the things that were important to you, like being here, that got set by the side. And that's been like a pattern in the family. And that's been painful, certainly for me and for the family. And I know for you too, because that resulted back in what we've talked about before, the blame toward, the family doesn't support me, they don't want me here, but not seeing your part in it. So I think what you're describing here is that awareness. And without that level of awareness, we may know our heart is hurting, we may not know why. We may be avoiding and not know why. We may be getting angry and frustrated back at that person without knowing why. And when we sit with why is it here, then we have that discovery. And then when you go through that prioritization process and you say, what you and I had talked about, that first it's between you sitting with God, because God, that relationship you're developing is what brought you here to 5 months.
Right.
And so it has to be the number one priority. And in that, I think, is you. But then I see the you part as, okay, I need to make sure I'm showered, that I have my good and clean food for the day, that I'm hydrated, that I've slept well, that you have some level of exercise, just to take care of the self before you start giving out to others. And then in the next priority, as we talked about, is even you going to your school or your job, so that that part enriches your life.
Right.
Because when you have more of that, then you have more to give.
Right.
It's always about filling that cup. That's why I say self-full. And, honestly, you learn that people pleasing from me, I have no doubt. Because being a single mom for so long and having to take care of everything, from the top down, I learned to give and do without stopping to care for myself. And it caused me a lot of problems, not through an addiction, but it caused me problems in many other ways because I was just trying to survive, is what I said before. And that's, people pleasing can be a survival mode.
Absolutely.
How's that for you?
Just the people pleasing or the survival, it's currently in my life. I want to say it is people pleasing and it's also surviving, but it's a need and a want that I'm feeling that I need in my life right now, because it's just, helping keep me accountable in my own life, but it's also, it's not necessarily surviving, because I'm more than surviving these days. I'm living. And survival mode was when I was in my addiction.
And people pleasing was when your addiction
And
too.
people pleasing. So I think I used the wrong words there. Survival and people pleasing is part of my life right now. Um, People pleasing is just always something I've done. I just love people. I love putting a smile on people's faces. I love brightening up a room, and helping if I can. But that's where it comes in that I enable. And I, somebody asks if they can have something, or they need something, or they need to go somewhere, I'm on it. And it's, I would say it's people pleasing in a way, but at the same time, we were just having this conversation when, in your bathroom, but, people pleasing is, I find myself also, it's pleasing for myself to know that I can give back. But at the same time, the way that I may have come at an individual in my home is not, now I look at it, it's not very pleasing. It's not very, I'm not showing much, what's the word I'm looking for? I've been a little harsh on her, and more like nitpicking. And I remember I didn't like that. And, well, this is what you're doing wrong, or this is how you should do it. Or, I mean, it's not fun to feel like you're this low when you're trying to work your way back up. And I feel like it's a constant just push down, a little more, a little more, a little more. And when, after you and I were talking in the bathroom, and I know that I have been coddling her a little bit and babying her in a little bit. And so, in a way, people pleasing,
But it does this, doesn't it?
It goes up and down. And I feel like it could be a negative. It could be a positive. It could be neutral, and I understand that some need more love and help than others. They may have gone through stuff throughout their childhood, adulthood, teenage years. I don't know. And that's not my story to tell. But I know that my people pleasing comes from, when I would be waiting for my dad, and just, okay, Dad, what do I have to do for you to show up? Or, hey, Dad, okay, Dad, you want to do this? Okay, let's do it, Dad. Just to make him feel like he was wanted, but in turn, I wanted to be wanted. And so I think people pleasing, and that kicks into survival mode too. It stems back from when I was a little girl. And I'm grateful for where I'm at today. And people say it gets easier, but it's not fucking easy. Dealing with my emotions, mentally, emotionally, things physically. A few months back, I was completely lean to the left. My spine was 4 inches to the left. I couldn't even stand up straight. I was in so much pain, and by the grace of God, during my little time in jail, I stand up straight, my back straight. But
that was incredible.
It's been causing
no
me
explanation for that.
Me either. But it's been causing me my back's been causing me a lot of pain lately, and it brings up trauma. It brings up many emotions and feelings. The physical pain, I numbed for so many years, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. I just numbed that. And so now that I am 5 months, and proudly 5 months clean and sober off everything, feeling some of these as well gets overwhelming, and it's a trigger for myself. And being triggered is just something can happen to anybody for anything, like you were saying. It triggers you in a way. When I don't call, or I don't follow through, and that's the biggest my mom has always told me: just follow through. When you say you're going to show up, show up. When you say you're going to call. And as long as you're just putting in 100%, keep you in the loop, putting in 100%, I'm going to give 100% as well.
That's really important, though. What's the rest of it, that story? When I would tell you, if you're giving
10%, I'm giving 10%. You're giving 50%, that's all I'm giving too. And you have to meet me. and I will match
right.
you. I will match that same
And
level.
that balances out that people pleasing
It does.
and the survival, because that was me chasing you around for so long.
Mm-hmm.
It was also trying to please myself to make sure you didn't die,
Right,
right?
right.
And so that I could feel better. So that people pleasing comes back to also, I want to feel better. Like you said, I
Mm-hmm.
did it for my dad so that I could feel better. I
Right.
could get what I wanted. So it's always like this loop that just runs round and round.
It's like I was saying, this has not been easy, and people say, well, it gets easier and it's worth it, and I wouldn't necessarily say it's getting easier, but I'm enjoying life more. I'm living. I'm not just surviving. I'm not in the victim mode. I'm actually living my life. And some days are easier, some days are harder, some seconds and minutes are easier, some are harder. But I'm doing it because I want to be doing it, not because I have to be, but I'm because it's a want in my life these days.
Why
And
now?
I'm why now is I'm just staring outside right now, but to be able to walk out those doors and just see the trees, smell the air, and I mean, physically, my body's back, my back straight again, and I may have a few more, pounds on my bones, but I am so much happier with that, and I'm such a happy person, and I love being a goofball, but the fact that I can take accountability for my crap these days. And
Do you
I
think that's the big difference?
I think that's a huge difference is that before 6 months ago, I wouldn't have been okay sitting here putting my life out there to the world, but because I was in denial, I was in addiction, and I didn't want to face it. There is no way, no how. It is not me, it's you. And we've been through this many times, jail phone calls, visits. Oh, well, it's because of you or my brother or my sister. And no, it's because of me. Nobody forced me to inject heroin. Nobody forced me to smoke Betty or do any other drug or crime or steal and lie and cheat. And nobody forced me to do any of that. I did it on my own free will.
Why do you suppose now, though, you're willing to take accountability? Because the places you've been and the things you've seen and experienced, which we'll talk about another time, why are you ready now to take that accountability? Why are you ready to say, oh wow, I've been lying to myself?
I guess
Why are you ready to face the pain that's been sitting in there for so long?
because the pain that's been in here for so long is detrimental to my own life, and the fact that all the major, huge events in my family's life have happened over the years, and I wasn't there for a single one of them. And when I come home and there's so many pictures and memories and, events that you guys talk about, I have no idea what they are. And I'm tired of being alone. When I have the most amazing, loving, supportive family, and that goes to my little big brother. He was my best friend. He was my absolute everything. And sitting in jail and knowing and feeling how alone I felt, and then I just said, okay, I'm going to write my brother and just give him a rundown. And I told him specifically in the letter, this isn't to ask for sympathy. This isn't me playing victim. I'm not asking for anything other to give you a little backstory on what I've done and what I've put myself through. And I made sure to put that in there because for so many years I played that victim role. And I'm a victim of this. I'm a victim of that. You need to coddle me. You need to just feel sorry for me. And I didn't want that in any way, but I wanted him to know that I had a serious issue, and if it wasn't drugs, it was men. If it wasn't men, it was stealing. If it wasn't stealing, it was gambling. If it wasn't that, it was something else, lying.
It's slippery, isn't it?
It's very, and I can't say that there's probably not, there may be a handful of things that I didn't do. But nothing that needs to be discussed.
So, do you think what I'm hearing you say is that it's the core was being alone that
Yeah.
got to be too much, and
Yeah.
that the drugs or the men or the gambling or the stealing or whatever it was, you finally somehow realized or you were willing to accept that those things weren't going to stop this pain of being alone, which then had you look at why am I alone
Mm-hmm.
and start taking accountability for that.
Right. Yeah.
Is that fair enough to
Yeah,
say?
absolutely. And so, absolutely, and getting back to, my little big brother, as I call him, he's younger than me, but he's much taller than me. He was my bestest friend. He was my heart, my entire world, and I remember him, or, being informed that he didn't care if I died, I wasn't anything to him. And
That was his hurt.
yeah, absolutely. But what's even on my worst day, which isn't really bad these days, it's a normal, like, oh, I broke a fingernail, or oh, I broke a toenail, or oh my god, I'm tired, oh, I don't have this in the refrigerator. Okay, so what? If that's all my bad days are, you can shoot that all day long.
Amen to that.
All day. Or, oh, my water isn't getting hot enough in the shower at home because there's 12 other women in the house. Cool, I'll take a cold shower because it's in my shower.
Amen.
And but with my brother, in talking to him on the phone when I was in the county, and he sent me a book. And a few weeks ago, when I came over to my mom's, and I was talking to my brother, and I said, I'm going to have to bring this over because I've reread like the first chapter about 10 times and had a dictionary out, and I still don't understand. So it's
Marcus Aurelius.
It's a meditation
book, yeah.
And so my brother and I, it's the little things like that that's putting our relationship back in order, or starting to. We have a long ways to go.
And he was concerned too, because he last week said, oh, I thought you and Sis were going to do another one of these talks together. And I said, she had these events come up, and he said, I hope that's true.
Mm-hmm.
And so that lingering doubt for him too.
Which he had to deal with me from a very young age. Mm-hmm. And even though we're 2 years, 11 months, and 9 days apart. Not that anybody's counting, but that guy, he's a grown man. He always has, and he always will hold a very special place, in my life. And he had mentioned to me that, maybe Sis, one day we'll get back to where we were one day, but in a different way, but stronger, and hearing I love you out of his mouth, or my sister, who's a few years younger than my little big brother, hearing I love you. And even my youngest brother, not just getting up and walking out of the room when I was here, which he could have very easily done. I don't know him, as we've talked about.
Do you remember what I shared with you, though, that he told me? He said, I have forgiven her, because that's what Jesus does. However, for us to have any type of relationship, I need to not hear her words. I need to see her actions.
Which you told me, ever since I was a little girl, it's actions speak louder than words,
Mm-hmm. And that's where he's at in terms of his own experience with you.
Mm-hmm.
And I told him, I said, I think that's a really healthy approach. And I thought it was quite remarkable that he was able to step outside of himself,
right,
and say, I will offer you the forgiveness because I want to see you do well. I just can't trust what you're saying,
right,
until I see it demonstrated.
Right, well, because I have a track record of so many different stories, and by the third one, it didn't even match the first one, and it was just like this and
True.
this and this and this, and I couldn't even remember the first lie I told.
Well, that's the thing with lies, right?
Yeah, and so that's where I can say I completely understand, and I've taking accountability. And I guess what I was saying about my little big brother is even on my worst day, just having him, he towers over me these days, you know. But having him wrap his arms around me and saying I love you, and me hearing that he's proud of me, and having the same thing with my mom and my dad and my sister and the neighbors, and it's what keeps me wanting to keep going. It's, I mean, I don't have to do this. I want to do this. It's part of my survival, you know, where it comes down to that. But it's not just necessary survival, but it's something I need that reassurance that I'm doing the right thing.
But at the bottom of your of the experience you've had, it is about your survival because you almost didn't survive.
Multiple times.
Right. So yes, it sounds like you're starting at that survival base, and then though you're building relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And I say we say goodbye for now.
Alrighty.
All right.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks for watching.